G'day YouTube, Warbles on a lot here. Welcome to the first day of summer. Here we see November, and in this whole month 65.7 millimetres of rain, all except 1.7 millimetre being in the last week. And now, on top of 5.5 millimetres yesterday, today I've had enough to cause pooling and runoff. Up here on top of the hill, and as I recall it, 9 millimetres was kind of like the magic figure. The first 9 or 10 millimetres you don't get any runoff. After that you start getting runoff. And here we have sort of bright rain clouds with a horizon maybe a kilometre away. 65 millimetres of rain the past week. Yes, the grass has commenced to grow, and 7, 8, 8.5 millimetres in the rain gauge today. So I think it's probably time I walked the pipeline and went down and had a look at the pump at the dam and probably raise it. I don't know whether I'm going to raise it a foot or raise it several feet, because the country is now in condition to generate runoff. I wouldn't put it past the creator of the universe and a wicked sense of humour to drop 20 or 50 millimetres on me this afternoon or tonight. And if that happens and I don't move the pump far enough, I'm going to have a submarine water pump needing to be rebuilt. If I move the pump all the way up, rain will probably stop by the time I get back to the bloody hut. But anyway, 65 millimetres in a week. I think I'll take the risk of switching the rain off by shifting the pump up high enough to cope with a significant downpour. Now that the ground is actually wet for at least 2 centimetres down. If you scratch the surface, yeah, 2 centimetres of wet soil, a bit less than an inch, and then it was probably dry for about 6 metres under that. Anyway, walking on wet rocks is something I'd rather do without these goggles and without talking to the camera. So, teleport. Couldn't resist. Have to share. This place is really, really magic in the rain. It's called Old Man's Beard. It's a lichen. It's growing on the tea tree, Melaleuca alternifolia. Every now and then I have to pick a few shopping bags full of it and take them to my mother. She boils it up and uses it to dye hand-spun wool. Did I ever mention I come from a long line of hillbillies? Who'd have guessed? Look how fast the neighbour's place turns green when it rains. Here with an example of the grass on the other side of the fence is always greener, because when you look through the fence at it, you're looking at all the grass blades side by side by side, with grass blades in front of them and grass blades behind them. However, when you actually go over there and look down on the grass, that's when you get to see just how much bare ground there actually is in that patch that looked like it was absolutely solid green. Even here, at the heart of it, beside the tree stump. The grass on the other side of the fence is not actually necessarily greener. It's just you can see the green more better. And until the rain came, there was much more pick, green pick, over under the trees where the shade conserved some moisture. In places, hollow tree, like that. Anyway, hello Kurrajong, tree of life. I've got some fencing to do. Apparently, so it seems. Pretty much as soon as it stops raining. Probably not worth sawmilling. A fair bit to clean up. There we go. Shows you quite how much of the tree has been dead inside for how long. This is probably a 1958 bushfire, and this is the regrowth from it. And somewhere down in there is a relic of the original sapling. There's the other end of that scar with its 1958 fire char. Sometimes in the forest we find wrapping paper for a salt block blown away on the wind from the neighbouring farm. Oh well, you get that. Well, I'd say water's come up a bit. I've got here at the right time. Not much in the way of actual runoff at the moment, but the ground is primed for it. There we go. That is the first drips of runoff. And that is the first staining of runoff. The beginnings of the tricklings. I do like it when I pay attention to my hunches. More old man's beard. Yeah, I got one of them. Yes. So we undo the drag line. Thus. "20 mils of rain in the next hour would frighten that pump. 50 mils of rain in the next hour would drown that pump. I think. And I don't know. Maybe maybe it might show up. However, if I move from there to there, could probably take 50 mils without getting its feet wet. Are we going to get more than 50 mils tonight? What's the bet? Do we go up to there? Or even up to there? How safe do we want the pump to be? Well, I guess if we get more than 50 mils, I won't be needing it for firefighting for a while, and maybe I'll just have to rebuild it and take an each way bet and go up from there to there. Right, so we move from there, we move up and across to there. Definitely up this part of a foot. And look how much the rain backs off. There's a negative sympathetic magic response to shifting the pump in case it gets flooded. Worry about the extra rain backs off. Life is really good fun when you've got a God theory that has a wicked sense of humour. Imagine how bloody boring it would be if one's God theory did not have a sense of humour. Don't have to imagine it. Just look at all the major religions in the world. And now, having given me the opportunity to make such a point, the rain turns back on again. Told you. Wicked sense of humour, my God theory. Wicked. Suppose that probably captures the alteration best, which shows up even better with a discarded piece of white foam insulation to demonstrate the vertical scale. So we can think of that as a each way bet between the actual high water mark when the dam is full and the regular high water mark when the dam is in usual operation, and where it's been for the last year or so, which is below the level where the pump is. You can see the sort of the rock line. That was pretty much the water line. Shall we say a year and a half ago when this latest Barnaby Joyce drought kicked in. And if we get more than 20 millimetres, I guess I'll come back down here and might have to shift it uphill again, because I've never had a pump on the dam before. I've never had any reason to observe it this closely. But, you know, at the end of a drought, into each rain event, a tree must fall. And likely some will fall onto my fence, my fence, my fence, my sacred, sacred fence fantasy. The 150-year-old fence which stops me from burning off and reducing my bushfire fuel burden. Oh, the fence, the fence. How many hundreds of years has this thing been standing up in preparation for falling down onto my sacred fence fantasy? Alack, alarm, alas. Such is life. And as the runoff begins to flow over land, as I told you so, I also told you how bloody dry it was. Just a couple of centimetres below the surface. Topsoil, topsoil, wherefore art thou topsoil? Mostly wind blowing away or compacted underfoot. What remains is going salty. Oh, there'd be bugger all true topsoil hereabouts today. And now I'm getting a battery warning, so I'll walk on back up to the hut. And rather than risk losing the video entirely at this point, I think I'll just call it quits for this one. It's just so good to be rained on. Bit of a difference, eh? Between the endangered species sanctuary and the land that's under agricultural production. You can have the one or you can have the other. But apparently, can't have both. 12,300 years of trying, we've been turning forest into desert while chasing profits. Bit of a worry, that, but what are you going to do? Compete with the lemmings in the rat race? Or get a hold of as much of the skin of planet Earth as you can afford to pay the rates on and try and stop it at the fence. That's where the edge effect cuts in. Anyway, this battery's got to be sick and sad and sorry by now. Look at the rain all the way to the horizon. Not going to stop anytime soon. Look at the trees. See how many are dead? Because the rain may not have come soon enough. I don't know. Time will tell. Whether this is the end or the beginning of the end of having eucalyptus forests in eastern Australia. How wicked is the sense of humour of my creator God theory. The sheep shit be thick upon this one. Warbles on a lot to YouTube. Ciao.